So, imagine you're just looking out your living room window in the dead of night.
Right, just a totally normal, quiet night at home.
Exactly. But it is pouring rain outside. Your long rural driveway is an absolute swamp of thick, impassable mud.
Oh, that sounds miserable.
Yeah, and then you see it. There's a black vintage Cadillac idling right at the edge of your property.
Which is already incredibly unsettling.
Completely terrifying. And then a man steps out. He's wearing this slick, unusually shiny, dark suit.
Like a government agent kind of look.
Yeah, but weirder. He trudges all the way up that muddy driveway in the dark, steps up onto your porch, and knocks.
So you open the door, obviously.
Right. You open it, terrified, and you look down at his shoes, and they are perfectly, impossibly dry.
Oh, wow. Just gleaming, right?
Exactly. Not a single drop of water, not a single speck of mud on them.
And, I mean, that's the kind of detail that just completely breaks your brain in the moment.
It really does, because it doesn't make any logical sense.
No, it doesn't. Because the implication isn't just that, he has really good waterproof footwear.
Right. What is the actual implication there?
The implication is that he didn't actually walk up your driveway at all. He literally materialized at your front door.
And that horrifying, just logic-breaking realization is exactly what we are unpacking today. Welcome to the deep dive.
We have a really fascinating one today.
We really do. Because if you're listening right now, you need to forget everything you think you know about the Men in Black.
Yeah, completely throw out the Hollywood movies.
Exactly. Forget Will Smith, forget Tommy Lee Jones and those perfectly tailored suits protecting a blissfully ignorant Earth from interplanetary refugees.
I mean, that image is actually incredibly comforting when you really think about it.
It is, because it implies that someone is in charge, right? Like, reality has this neat bureaucratic structure.
Right, like there's a management system for the weirdness.
Yeah, but today we are taking a massive stack of sources, articles, declassified historical case files, and the incredibly dense field notes of a pioneering anomalist named John Keel.
His work is absolutely groundbreaking.
It really is. And we're using all of that to explore what's known as the Keelian paradigm.
Which is basically a framework that suggests the Men in Black are definitely not from outer space.
Right, and they aren't government agents either.
No, certainly not from the CIA or the FBI or any secret agency.
So what are they then?
Well, according to Keel, they are temporary, glitchy, physically suffering, and utterly terrifying manifestations from a hidden dimension.
A dimension that just, surrounds our planet right now.
Exactly. So we aren't just trading spooky stories today. We are exploring the hidden mechanics of reality itself.
Yeah, the actual architecture of human perception and, how our own cultural paranoias are basically weaponized against us.
It's a hairy topic, but it is so important.
It is. So if you're listening right now and you're used to the standard nuts and bolts UFO discussions, you really need to strap in.
Yeah, this is going to turn all of that completely upside down.
Because this is a masterclass in how to look at bizarre, contradictory data and actually find the terrifying hidden structure underneath it.
It's really about recognizing the absolute limits of human perception.
Right. Once you understand this paradigm, you will never look at a weird coincidence or a strange phone call or a bump in the night the same way again.
You really won't.
So, okay, let's unpack this and start with John Keel himself. He's the man who actually coined the acronym MIB, right?
Yes, in a 1967 article for Saga magazine.
Yeah, it was titled UFO Agents of Terror, I think.
That's the one. And, if you follow this topic, you already know the basics of the extraterrestrial hypothesis, the ETH.
Right, the idea that flying saucers are physical ships and the occupants are just biological astronauts from another star system.
Exactly. And Keel spent years doing this grueling, boots-on-the-ground field work, interviewing thousands of witnesses across the country.
And after all that exhaustion, all that data collection, he didn't just question the ETH, he completely abandoned it.
He had to, honestly. The data he was collecting directly contradicted the behavior of an advanced interstellar civilization.
Wait, really? Why did he call the idea of aliens intellectually untenable and logically bankrupt? That sounds like a massive dismissal.
I mean, it does sound harsh, but the ETH relies on a very human, rational progression of technology.
Okay, make that make sense for me.
Well, if an extraterrestrial race possesses the capability to fold space-time or achieve faster-than-light travel to cross the universe.
Which would require an insane amount of scientific advancement.
Exactly. Their behavior upon arrival should reflect that extreme level of technological and logical sophistication.
Right, they wouldn't just be bumbling around in the woods.
But instead, Keel found a phenomenon that was completely aggressively absurd.
Absurd how.
Well, he started cross-referencing these sightings and found massive, undeniable overlaps between UFO encounters and phenomena that we've traditionally classified as supernatural.
Oh, wow. Like ghosts and stuff.
Yeah, things like severe poltergeist activity, localized psychic anomalies, and even historical demonology.
That is wild. But okay, if people are clearly seeing flying saucers and weird entities in the sky, why throw out the most obvious answer? Like, the math of the sightings just didn't add up, right?
The logistics of the ETH completely fall apart under any real scrutiny. Keel looked at the sheer volume of global sightings.
Right, because there were thousands and thousands of them.
Millions, actually, over time. If every single reported UFO was a distinct, physical, nuts and bolts spacecraft, Earth would be experiencing an interstellar traffic jam of cosmic proportions.
Oh, that's a great point. Like, where are they all parking?
Exactly. We are talking about millions of physical ships entering our atmosphere. It just doesn't make logistical sense.
And Keel also looked at the physics of it, didn't he?
He did. The physics, reported by highly credible witnesses, like military pilots and radar operators, make physical biological occupants impossible.
Because of how the ships move.
Yes.
Yeah.
We have objects performing right-angle turns at Mach 10 without producing a sonic boom.
Which should physically shatter any biological thing inside them.
Exactly. Any physical metallic craft carrying flesh and blood beings would be completely pulverized by the G-forces of those maneuvers alone.
And we also have objects that visually merge together or split apart or just blink out of existence entirely.
Right. Metal doesn't do that.
And Keel didn't just look at the physics, he looked at the historical timeline too.
Yes, which is crucial.
Because people have been reporting these exact same types of encounters for thousands of years, right? The intelligence just constantly changes its outfit to match the era.
That is the key insight.
Yeah.
If you're a medieval peasant, they appeared as angels or demons or fairies in the woods.
Right, because that's the framework your brain had for the unknown.
Exactly. And if you're living in the late 19th century during the Industrial Revolution, they appeared as mysterious rogue airship inventors.
Oh, yeah, the phantom airship waves.
Right. And then in the 1960s, at the dawn of the space age, they suddenly appeared as space explorers.
So the spaceship is literally just the modern disguise.
Keel realized we're not being visited, we are being co-inhabited.
Okay, that is a terrifying phrase. Co-inhabited.
He coined the term ultra-terrestrial. He proposed an intelligence that does not visit Earth from afar, but permanently resides right here alongside us.
But operating just on the extreme margins of our physical perception.
Yes. They aren't light years away. They're sitting right next to you, completely invisible because our biological senses simply aren't tuned to perceive them.
So they're basically roommates we can't see.
That's one way to put it, yeah.
But this immediately creates a massive physical problem for me.
What's that?
Well, if they aren't biological aliens and they aren't physical spacecraft, what exactly are they made of?
Ah, that is the big question.
Because if a human being opens their door and physically sees a man in black standing on their porch, if they see a shiny suit and a pale face, that entity has to be made of something.
Right, there has to be physical matter.
Yeah, the light bouncing off them has to hit the human eye. So how does Keel explain the actual physics of this phenomenon?
To solve that, Keel introduced a concept in his 1975 book, The Eighth Tower, called the superspectrum.
Okay, what exactly is the superspectrum?
He theorized that there is a vast, extra-dimensional energy field that perfectly coexists with our space-time continuum.
So it's here, right now.
It permeates absolutely everything.
Yeah.
It is in the room with you right now.
Okay, creepy.
But it operates at electromagnetic frequencies that exist far outside the incredibly narrow band of sensory perception that human biology has evolved to detect.
You know, the best way to visualize this superspectrum for everyone listening is to think of an old-school analog radio dial or even like a massive invisible Wi-Fi network.
That's a perfect analogy.
Because of how human eyes and ears evolved, we are basically stuck listening to exactly one station on that dial.
Just our visible reality.
Right. Our entire reality, everything we can touch, see, measure with our scientific instruments, is just that one single narrow frequency.
But these ultra-terrestrial entities have access to the entire dial.
They exist in the static.
Exactly. And they can twist the knob and tune in to our specific frequency whenever they want to interact with us.
Wow. And what's fascinating here is how that tuning in process explains how the Men in Black actually manifest physically.
Right, because the sources indicate that the MIB are not born.
They don't have moms and dads?
No. They do not have biological parents, they don't have a childhood, and they do not have organic internal organs.
So what are they?
They are constructed.
Yeah.
The ultra-terrestrial intelligence acts upon the raw electromagnetic energy of the superspectrum and forcefully condenses it into temporary physical matter.
So by lowering their frequency, they forcefully solidify into our reality?
Yes, and Keel used an incredible, truly terrifying analogy for this process. He compared creating a man in black to creating plutonium.
Okay, wait, plutonium, like nuclear material.
Yes, it's a vital comparison for understanding their erratic behavior.
How so?
Well, plutonium is not a naturally occurring element on Earth. It is a highly dense, artificially constructed radioactive element.
Right, you have to synthesize it in a lab.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And because it is forcefully synthesized, it is incredibly volatile and unstable.
Okay, I see where this is going.
Keel argued that the MIB are essentially artificial, temporary atomic forms.
So because they are energy constructs forced to comply with the heavy, dense physical laws of Earth's atmosphere, they're inherently unstable.
Yes. Their physical bodies are deeply flawed, and they begin to deteriorate very rapidly the exact moment they materialize.
Oh man, so they are quite literally degrading, atom by atom, the entire time they are standing in front of a witness.
Yes. They are falling apart as you speak to them.
That perfectly explains one of the most common creepy tropes of MIB encounters that you always read about.
The vanishing. Right.
Yes. You read these case files and people constantly report that these guys just step out of thin air. Or they'll be walking down a completely empty, straight dirt road and they just vanish mid-stride.
Right in front of people's eyes.
Yeah. Or they drive these immaculate black Cadillacs into a dead-end field, the witness runs after them, and the car is just gone.
Because they aren't driving into a secret underground bunker.
Right. Their physical forms are dissolving, their atomic structure gives out, their frequency goes back up, and they are gone from our radio station.
They simply cannot sustain the atomic density required to exist here for long periods.
But, okay, if they are these temporary, super unstable energy constructs that just eventually fall apart, why does this massive invisible intelligence bother going through the extreme effort of creating them in the first place?
That is the central question, isn't it?
Yeah, like energy condensation takes immense power. So what triggers an MIB visit? Why your front porch on a Tuesday night?
To answer the why, we really have to look at Keel's view of Earth as a closed system.
A closed system.
Yes, he posited that Earth is a highly structured, self-regulating biological and energetic environment.
Okay.
And it possesses what he called a perceptual membrane.
A perceptual membrane, like a bubble.
Basically, it's a built-in cognitive and physical limitation, like a quarantine, that keeps human beings entirely ignorant of the vast, chaotic reality of the superspectrum that surrounds them.
Oh, so it protects us from seeing the static on the dial.
Exactly. It is a necessary boundary for our sanity and our linear progression as a species.
So an MIB visit happens when someone accidentally breaches that quarantine.
Precisely. When a human being witnesses a UFO performing impossible maneuvers, or they interact with a bizarre cryptid, or they experience a severe reality-breaking poltergeist event,
They've seen too much.
they have inadvertently peeked through a tear or a thinning in that perceptual membrane. They have seen the machinery operating behind the curtain of our reality.
And I'm guessing the intelligence does not like that.
Not at all. That unauthorized observation is perceived by the intelligence as a direct threat to the stability of the control system.
Right, because human consciousness cannot be allowed to expand into the superspectrum.
Exactly. So the MIB are immediately dispatched as the membrane's emergency repair units.
Wait, but if this ultra-terrestrial intelligence is so incredibly advanced that it can spontaneously synthesize physical matter out of invisible energy, why send a weird, creepy guy in an ill-fitting suit?
It seems inefficient, doesn't it?
Yeah, if the goal is to keep a human quiet about what they saw, why not just logically convince the witness to stay quiet?
Because logic implies a shared reality.
Or, I mean, if we want to be dark about it, why not just give the witness a sudden aneurysm and eliminate the threat entirely? Why go through this theatrical, bizarre performance?
Because physical elimination leaves a trail, right? It creates an investigation. And logical silencing acknowledges that the witness saw something real and valid.
Oh, that makes sense. You don't want to validate them.
The system's actual goal is a psychological concept known as cognitive destabilization.
Cognitive destabilization. Meaning what, exactly?
The intelligence utilizes the MIB to induce profound ontological shock in the witness.
So just completely breaking their understanding of reality.
Yes. Their primary directive is to scramble the witness's data so thoroughly and terrify them so deeply that if the witness ever tries to tell their story to the authorities or the press or even their own family, they sound completely insane.
Oh, wow. So the system doesn't need to kill you. It neutralizes the threat by making you discredit yourself.
Exactly. You become your own worst enemy.
If you're listening to this and wondering how that actually works in practice, think about how modern disinformation works on the internet today.
That's a really great modern parallel.
Right. If a hostile actor wants to hide a true piece of information, they don't actually need to censor it or delete it from the servers. That's way too much work.
And it usually backfires.
Exactly. Instead, they just flood the zone with absolute absurdity. They pump out thousands of conflicting, bizarre, enraging bots and narratives until the average person literally stops trusting their own eyes.
They get exhausted and they just give up.
Yes. The MIB are doing that exact same thing, but on a deeply personal, localized level. They are flooding a single witness's reality with customized absurdity.
It really is an environmental immune response. Think of it like a virus. In this case, human awareness of the superspectrum breaches the system.
Okay.
The white blood cells, the men in black, are deployed to surround and neutralize that virus through total psychological confusion.
And to effectively scramble a human being's brain like that, these energy constructs need a very specific disguise.
Yes, the visual presentation is everything.
Which brings us to the actual physical anatomy of what Keel called a mimetic construct. What does an MIB actually look like when you open that door? Because it's not just a normal guy in a suit.
Not at all. The physical typologies recorded across thousands of Keel's case files are remarkably, disturbingly uniform, yet somehow always slightly wrong.
What do you mean by slightly wrong?
Well, witnesses overwhelmingly report entities wearing black or gray suits, but the suits are frequently described as immaculate but ill-fitting.
Like they bought the wrong size.
Yeah, or they are slightly out of date by maybe 5 or 10 years. Or they're made of very shiny, highly reflective synthetic materials that don't move or drape like any normal earthly fabric.
It's like they're wearing a concept of a suit rather than clothes bought off a rack at a department store.
Exactly. And their biological presentation is even more uncanny than their clothes.
I've read they usually have very specific facial features.
Yes. They're almost always described as having olive or deeply tanned skin, regardless of the season or local climate.
Okay, interesting.
They possess very high, sharp cheekbones, thin lips, and dark almond-shaped eyes that often wrap slightly around the sides of their heads.
Which is why they always wear those iconic wraparound sunglasses, even at night.
Precisely. They have to hide the anatomical errors.
We really have to place this in its historical context to understand why they look like that, though.
That is so important, yes.
Because Keel was doing his primary research in the late 1950s and 1960s. This is the absolute height of the Cold War.
Everyone was terrified.
Yeah, the bamboo curtain is a massive geopolitical talking point. The American public is culturally saturated with the terror of communist infiltration, foreign spies, and hidden subversive agents.
Paranoia was essentially the national pastime.
Exactly. So is the fact that the MIB consistently display these vague, stereotypically Oriental or foreign features just a random choice by the superspectrum? Or is the phenomenon literally holding up a mirror and reflecting Cold War xenophobia right back into the living rooms of the witnesses?
It's the latter, absolutely. The intelligence constructs the avatar based on the localized fears of the observer.
So it's custom built to scare them.
Yes. The superspectrum does not just pick a face at random from a cosmic catalog. It chooses a specific archetypal mask designed to maximize psychological terror based on the cultural climate of the target's era.
Wow.
By appearing as a vaguely foreign other, the MIB directly exploited the deep subconscious paranoias of 1950s and 60s America regarding foreign espionage.
It bypasses rational thought entirely.
It does. It triggers an immediate visceral threat response. It is invoking ancient evolutionary fears of the unknown outsider, but dressing it up in Cold War aesthetics.
So the terror is perfectly calculated by the system.
Down to the smallest detail.
But at the same time, because we know they are temporary constructs built like plutonium, their bodies are basically falling apart while they are trying to intimidate you.
Right, which creates a very weird dynamic.
How does that atomic instability actually manifest during an encounter? Like, what does the witness see?
It manifests as a profound, almost tragic, biological failure.
Tragic.
Yes, because the MIB are essentially suffering from massive physiological defects from the very second they materialize into our dense atmosphere.
Oh, I see.
Witnesses consistently describe them walking very stiffly, unsteadily, often swaying or moving with jerky, uncoordinated motions.
Like they don't know how legs work.
Exactly. Or as if they're profoundly intoxicated or suffering from a severe physical injury.
And they have trouble breathing, right?
Yes, acute respiratory distress. They frequently gasp for breath between sentences, and they speak in slow, stilted, robotic monotones, lacking any natural human cadence.
So creepy.
It's as if they're reciting a script they don't fully understand while actively suffocating in front of you.
Keel had a really specific medical comparison for this, didn't he?
He did.
Huh.
He compared their condition to the bends, or decompression sickness.
Right, so if you're a deep-sea diver and you surface too quickly, the rapid change in atmospheric pressure causes nitrogen bubbles to form in your bloodstream.
Which is incredibly dangerous.
Yeah, it leads to agonizing joint pain, paralysis, and respiratory failure. So if an entity is materializing from a completely different density or energy frequency in the superspectrum directly into the heavy, dense, oxygen-rich atmosphere of Earth,
They are experiencing a paranormal equivalent of the bends.
wow. So they aren't these invincible, lethal assassins moving with ninja-like grace like in the movies.
Not at all. They are incredibly fragile, physically suffering constructs that are actively struggling to simply hold their atomic structure together long enough to deliver their message.
Which brings us right back to that horrifying detail from the beginning of our deep dive, the pristine shoes on the muddy driveway.
It all connects.
Because if they are struggling just to walk, if they are gasping for air, they aren't going to hike a mile through the mud.
They couldn't even if they wanted to.
Right. They bypass the physical environment entirely. They materialize right at the destination. The suit and the shoes aren't real fabric or leather getting stained by the elements. They are a localized projection of energy.
The physical environment does not affect them in transit because there is no transit.
But if their physical bodies are that glitchy and they are literally suffocating in our atmosphere, their brains, or whatever passes for cognitive processing in an energy construct, must be even worse.
Oh, it is. The cognitive dissonance is staggering.
Because the MIB are famously spectacularly terrible at pretending to be human.
They really are.
Okay, here's where it gets really interesting. Let's talk about the Owatonna, Minnesota incident from May 1967, because this is where the terrifying gives way to the utterly absurd.
Yes, the Major Richard French case. It is perhaps the single most illustrative example of their catastrophic failure to mimic human behavior.
I love this story. So, a witness named Mrs. Ralph Butler is visited by an MIB. He drives up in a pristine white Mustang wearing a flawless gray suit and introduces himself as Major Richard French of the U.S. Air Force.
Very official sounding.
Right. He looks official. He sounds official. But during the conversation in her living room, the Major starts complaining that he has a really bad stomachache.
Which is already a weird thing for an imposing government agent to complain about.
Exactly. But Mrs. Butler, being a hospitable Midwestern host, offers him a bowl of Jell-O to soothe his stomach.
As one does.
And what happens next is just mind-bending. The Major picks up the bowl of Jell-O, lifts the entire bowl to his face, and attempts to drink it like it's a glass of water or hot soup.
He just tilts it back.
Yes. He is utterly baffled by this wobbly substance. It's not moving like liquid, but it's not solid. Mrs. Butler literally has to stop him, hand him a spoon, and walk this supposed Air Force major through the physical process of how to scoop Jell-O into his mouth.
And this is what Keel categorized as mimetic dissonance.
Mimetic dissonance. Okay, break that down.
The MIB are trying to operate within human social paradigms, but they completely lack fundamental cultural and physical competence.
They don't know how to be human.
Right. The entity is wearing the concept of human illness, the stomachache, in a calculated attempt to build rapport or sympathy with the witness.
Oh, so it's a manipulation tactic.
Exactly. But they don't actually possess an organic digestive system. And they certainly don't possess a working knowledge of terrestrial chemistry.
Let alone Jell-O.
Right. Consider the physics of Jell-O. It is a colloidal suspension. It is a semi-solid polymer network that traps liquid.
It's weird stuff, even for us.
To an entity whose cognitive parameters are not calibrated to the nuanced physical states of matter on Earth, a translucent substance resting in a bowl appears visually identical to water.
Ah, that makes so much sense.
They do not have the biological sensory experience to anticipate the texture or the gravity of a gel. They see the prop, but they don't understand the physical reality of what the prop actually is.
They are acting out a play, but they have no idea what the words in the script mean.
That's a brilliant way to phrase it.
And the sources are full of other examples of this absolute absurdity.
Right.
Like, there are reports of MIBs being offered a cigar by a witness, and instead of lighting it, they just shove the entire cigar into their mouth and try to chew it and swallow it whole.
Which is both funny and deeply unsettling.
Very unsettling. In other cases, they will pick up a standard, everyday ballpoint pen off a desk and stare at it, twisting it around like it's a piece of incomprehensible alien technology.
Because to them, it is incomprehensible.
Or they ask witnesses for wildly inappropriate, impossible items. They'll knock on a door and aggressively demand that the witness hand over some cherry bombs from nowhere. Or they'll start interrogating a rural farmer about radioactive iodine out of absolutely nowhere.
And when you analyze the transcripts of their dialogue, the mimetic dissonance deepens even further.
How so? Like the way they talk?
Yes, they frequently speak in sentences that are syntactically and grammatically perfect, but contextually insane.
Right.
They will use bizarrely outdated slang from decades prior. They will combine highly formal, bureaucratic vocabulary with completely disjointed, nonsensical concepts.
So it's just word salad.
But the critical takeaway here is that this isn't just a mistake. It is not a byproduct of a bad interdimensional translation program.
Wait, it's intentional.
The absurdity is the mechanism of control.
Oh, I see. Because if a guy shows up at your door claiming to be the government and then tries to drink a bowl of Jell-O and asks you for cherry bombs, your rational mind just short circuits.
You literally cannot process what is happening.
You can't process the threat because the data doesn't fit any known category of human behavior.
It completely disarms the witness's analytical faculties. You are trying to engage logically with an entity that is fundamentally violating the foundational rules of logic.
It's a mental trap.
Yes. This mimetic dissonance leaves the witness feeling isolated, confused, and deeply traumatized. It is a highly aggressive, deeply invasive form of psychological warfare masquerading as incompetence.
And we really need to focus on that aggression, because while the Jell-O story sounds comical to us sitting here talking about it, for the witnesses living through it, it is a waking nightmare.
It's life-ruining.
It is. This isn't just a weird guy saying funny things. There is a severe physical and psychological toll exacted on these people.
The aftermath is devastating.
The sources outline that after these visits, witnesses frequently suffer from intense muscular soreness, temporary physical paralysis, and most terrifyingly, massive periods of missing time, or cryptomnesia. They just lose hours or days of their lives.
The temporal displacement is a critical factor in the Keelian paradigm.
What are they doing during that missing time?
Under Keel's investigation, it became apparent that the MIB utilized these periods of missing time to actively reprogram the witness's perception.
Reprogram,
Yeah.
like brainwashing.
Exactly. The witness's neurology is essentially hijacked. During these blackouts, the intelligence burdens the witness with false, incredibly vivid, and often catastrophic prophecies.
Catastrophic prophecies, like end-of-the-world stuff.
Yes, they will implant hyper-realistic visions of impending nuclear wars, global geological disasters, or political assassinations.
That is horrifying.
It is deliberate psychological manipulation designed to break the witness down, to make them obsessed with an apocalypse that will never come, which further isolates them from society.
And the mechanism they use to induce this state is wild. It's not, a swinging pocket watch.
Yeah, it's much more aggressive.
The sources describe the MIB aggressively using flash cameras. They will roll up in their black Cadillacs, meticulously set up tripods on a witness's front lawn in the middle of the night, and just start photographing the house.
So invasive.
Or worse, they will drive past a witness walking down the street and fire a blinding flash gun directly into their face from a moving car. But Keel realized there was no film in those cameras, right?
Right. They weren't taking pictures for a file in Washington, D.C.
So what was the flash for?
The camera is merely a familiar technological prop used to disguise an attack.
An attack?
Yes. The intense, sudden burst of electromagnetic light acts as a neuro-triggering mechanism. It is used to induce localized hypnosis or effectuate immediate short-term memory erasure.
Wow, so like a real-life neuralizer.
Yes, but far more brutal. It is an active, forced overwriting of the witness's cognitive hard drive. The electromagnetic pulse overloads the synaptic pathways in the brain, forcing the witness into a highly receptive, dissociative state where the system's programming can be implanted.
But the harassment doesn't stop when they drive away. And this is the part of Keel's research that feels chillingly modern to me.
It was decades ahead of its time.
It really was. Keel detailed how he and the witnesses he worked with were subjected to endless targeted electronic harassment.
Yes, the phone tampering.
If you're listening today, you would recognize this immediately as gang stalking or getting maliciously doxxed, swatted, and having your digital life destroyed. But Keel was experiencing this in the 1960s, perpetrated by a completely paranormal force. The MIB literally hacked the global telephone grid.
Because the ultra-terrestrial intelligence is fundamentally composed of and manipulates electromagnetic energy, our copper wire telecommunications grid is a highly conductive native medium for them.
They just slide right into the wires.
Exactly. They don't just exist physically on your porch. They exist simultaneously as an informational virus within the infrastructure.
The details of this are just horrifying. Keel would be on the phone trying to conduct an interview, and the lines would constantly emit these strange metallic clicks, whirs, and heavy breathing.
Just to let them know they were listening.
Yeah. And human phone operators would suddenly break into his private calls, claiming there was a priority emergency override, and then they would abruptly connect him to an MIB who demonstrated impossible, intimate knowledge of Keel's private movements.
Like knowing what he had eaten for breakfast?
Exactly, or what he was wearing in his own home. But the absolute worst detail, the one that really highlights the cruelty of this intelligence, is when Keel would dial a number to call a trusted friend.
This part always gives me chills.
The call would route, someone would pick up the phone, and the voice on the other end claiming to be John Keel was John Keel.
A perfect replica.
Yes. The intelligence synthesized an acoustic doppelganger that sounded exactly like him, mimicking his cadence and his vocabulary perfectly. Imagine dialing a number and your own voice answers the phone, mocking you.
It is the ultimate expression of psychological dominance.
It really is. It's meant to break you.
By infiltrating the very communication tools Keel relied upon to conduct his objective research, the phenomenon ensures that the researcher is never safe.
There's no safe harbor.
None. They are establishing omnipresence. The message is unmistakable. We are in your house, we are in your wires, we know everything you know, and we can mimic you so perfectly that you cannot even trust your own voice.
It induces deep, inescapable paranoia.
The goal is to turn the objective investigator into a terrified victim, completely neutralizing their ability to objectively study the phenomenon because they are too busy questioning their own sanity.
It feels like an elaborate, unbelievably cruel joke being played on humanity. They give you just enough to terrify you, just enough data to ruin your life, but never enough physical evidence to prove anything to the scientific establishment.
And that cruelty is by design.
Which brings us to Keel's ultimate philosophical conclusion about all of this. What was his final takeaway?
To comprehend the underlying motive, you have to understand the concept of the cosmic joker.
The cosmic joker.
Yes. It's a philosophical framework heavily influenced by the early 20th century anomalist Charles Fort.
Okay, what did Fort believe?
Fort and Keel realized that the intelligence behind these phenomena does not want to be understood. It actively, aggressively resists scientific codification.
So it changes the rules on purpose.
Exactly. The system delights in a cycle of rewarding human belief with seeming confirmation and then brutally betraying that belief with absolute absurdity.
It's a cosmic bait and switch.
That's a great way to describe it.
And Keel made a very stark comparison here. He famously wrote, "Ufology is just another name for demonology."
A very controversial statement, but logically sound within his framework.
Yeah, because if you look at historical folklore, the MIB and their black Cadillacs are functionally identical to the black dogs, the demons, or the dark carriage drivers of European folklore.
The parallels are exact.
They manifest on the edge of town, they deliver false prophecies, they demand bizarre things, they smell like sulfur or ozone, and they completely ruin people's lives.
The intelligence didn't change at all. It just updated its wardrobe to match our modern expectations.
But wait, I have to stop here and look at the timeline.
Okay, sure.
If the MID are specifically a Cold War phenomenon, guys in slick suits driving Cadillacs reflecting 1960s paranoia, how can we connect them to ancient demonology? Didn't the whole suit and tie aesthetic only start in the 1950s with the rise of the CIA?
That is the common assumption, yes. But Keel's deep historical research completely refutes it. The phenomenon predates the CIA by decades.
Really? Do we have proof of that?
Let's examine the John Cole incident of 1924 in Gem, West Virginia.
Okay, 1924. That's way before modern UFO stuff.
Exactly. This takes place decades before the CIA existed. Decades before Kenneth Arnold coined the term flying saucer in 1947, and well before the modern UFO craze.
So what happened to John Cole?
John Cole, a farmer, sees what he describes as an airplane crash in the woods near his property, which was a major, noisy anomaly for rural 1924 West Virginia.
I bet. He must have been shocked.
He goes to investigate but finds absolutely nothing. No debris, no fire.
Classic.
But later that night, a man violently pounds on Cole's door. The entity is dressed as an authority figure, but crucially, he is wearing an archaic army uniform, complete with old-fashioned leg wrappings that were entirely out of date, even for 1924.
Oh, wow. So again, an ill-fitting, slightly wrong uniform.
Yes, this entity interrogates Cole, behaves bizarrely, and then just vanishes.
That is incredible.
Structurally, it is the exact same encounter as a modern MIB visit. An aerial anomaly followed by a bizarrely dressed, poorly mimicked authority figure arriving in the dead of night to intimidate a witness.
It proves conclusively that the superspectrum has been deploying these mimetic constructs long before the modern UFO or government agent paradigm was ever established.
Exactly. It just uses whatever mask works at the time.
The phenomenon just wears whatever uniform represents authority or intimidation to the witness at that specific point in history.
In 1924, an old Army officer is intimidating. In 1967, an Air Force major in a gray suit is intimidating.
But the superspectrum doesn't always choose an authority figure, right? Sometimes it chooses something much, much weirder. Let's talk about the grinning man. Let's talk about Indrid Cold.
Indrid Cold is a fascinating deviation from the standard MIB typology. It perfectly demonstrates the intelligence's immense malleability.
Yes. During his investigations in the Ohio River Valley in 1966, which eventually became the basis for the Mothman prophecies, Keel documented a totally different MIB variant interacting with a sewing machine salesman named Woodrow Derenberger.
The Derenberger case is legendary.
So Derenberger is driving down Interstate 77 at night when a bizarre craft forces him to pull over. A man steps out, but it's not a man in black.
No, not a black suit in sight.
Indrid Cold wore a reflective metallic blue or green garment that shimmered in the headlights.
Like a cheesy sci-fi spaceman suit.
Exactly. And instead of an olive complexion and a scowl, Cold had an unnervingly wide, fixed, unnatural smile that never left his face.
Hence, the grinning man.
Right. He didn't gasp for air or speak in a stilted monotone. He communicated entirely telepathically with Derenberger. And most importantly, he didn't claim to be from the U.S. government. He claimed to be a benign, friendly alien from a utopian planet called Lanulos.
And Indrid Cold is the perfect evidence that the intelligence is constantly experimenting with different scripts.
So it was just testing a new narrative.
Yes.
Yeah.
The utopian alien from Lanulos narrative is just a different lie fed to a specific witness to see how it propagates in the local culture.
That is so manipulative.
The aesthetic was different, the method of telepathic communication was different, but the result was identical. Derenberger's life was completely destroyed.
Right. He ended up losing basically everything.
He suffered immense psychological deterioration, public ridicule, and paranoia, identical to the aftermath of a standard MIB encounter. The system merely swapped out the mask of the terrifying government agent for the mask of the friendly space brother.
It's tailoring the terror to the target. But how does the superspectrum know what mask to wear?
That is a very deep philosophical question.
Like, how does a field of invisible electromagnetic energy know what will scare an American in 1966 versus a farmer in 1924?
If we connect this to the bigger picture, this is perhaps Keel's most profound speculation. And it relies on a concept drawn from parapsychology, the tulpa.
A tulpa. Tell us about that.
In Tibetan mysticism and modern parapsychology, a tulpa is a thought form. It is an entity created or drawn into physical existence by the intense, collective, latent psychic energy of a large group of people focusing on a single concept.
So if enough people believe in something, it becomes real.
In Keel's model, yes. The superspectrum acts as a massive, energetic mirror.
Okay, a mirror for what?
It absorbs the psychological pollution, the deep-seated fears, and the collective anxieties of humanity, and it reflects those anxieties back at us, condensed into physical matter.
Oh, man. So when a society lives in absolute terror of a nuclear apocalypse falling from the sky, the system absorbs that dread and generates Space Brothers' warning of atomic doom.
Exactly.
And when a society is gripped by the paranoia of authoritarian government surveillance and wiretaps, the system absorbs that paranoia and generates the Men in Black.
You've got it perfectly.
We are, in a very real, energetic sense, creating our own monsters.
We provide the blueprint, the superspectrum provides the energy.
Even the hoaxes factor into this, don't they?
Yes, they do.
Keel noted cases where people outright faked their encounters, like when a psychology student named Tom Monteleone fabricated interactions with Indrid Cold.
Right, he made it up.
But Keel argued that even the hoaxes are inspired by the system's ambient energy to illuminate human vulnerabilities and muddy the waters even further. The system wants you to lie about it because it adds to the overall confusion.
It is a self-sustaining feedback loop of paranoia and manifestation.
Hmm.
The more we fear them, the more energy we feed into the superspectrum, and the more vividly they manifest.
But if this is a natural environmental system, a feedback loop fundamentally connected to the Earth itself, it must have physical rules.
It definitely does. It isn't completely random.
Right, it can't just be random, invisible chaos. If they are utilizing energy, there must be a structure to when and where these manifestations happen. And Keel actually mapped this out, didn't he?
He did. Through meticulous statistical analysis of thousands of reports, Keel proved that these events are bound by hidden physical mechanics.
He categorized them, right?
Yes, he categorized their appearances into windows and waves.
Okay, what's a window?
Windows are specific geographic locations, like Point Pleasant, West Virginia, or the Uinta Basin in Utah, where the Earth's magnetic fields are unusually strong, or the perceptual membrane is naturally thin, allowing for much easier crossover from the superspectrum.
So some places are just naturally spookier because the membrane is weak there.
Exactly. And then waves are temporal clusters.
Like a sudden outbreak of sightings.
Yes, an area will explode with hundreds of sightings for a period of months, drawing massive amounts of ambient energy, and then it will abruptly stop and shift to an entirely different geographic state.
The geographic windows make total sense. But the most bizarre statistical rule he found has to be the Wednesday phenomenon.
Oh, this is fascinating data.
I love this detail because it's so specific. Keel analyzed over 700 close encounters and MIB reports from the late 60s, and he found that a massively disproportionate amount of them, fully 20% of all encounters, happened specifically on Wednesdays.
Which is statistically impossible to be mere coincidence.
Right. The activity peaks midweek and drops off entirely on the weekends. He was so incredibly confident in his statistical data that he actually went on live television on the Jackie Oberlinger show and successfully predicted exactly when a local UFO sighting would happen simply based on the day of the week.
And he was right. It happened.
It happened. It is a staggering anomaly that completely defies the idea of random psychological hallucinations.
It really points to a physical mechanism.
Right. So what is the physical why behind it?
Keel suspected it could be related to cyclical fluctuations in the Earth's telluric currents.
Telluric currents, what are those?
Telluric currents are natural electric currents that flow on and beneath the surface of the Earth, driven by changes in the outer part of the Earth's magnetic field interacting with the solar wind.
Oh, okay, so it's planetary energy.
Yes, manifesting physical matter from the superspectrum requires massive amounts of ambient energy. It is highly possible that the Earth's magnetic grid hits an optimal energetic charge midweek, acting as a fully charged battery for these constructs to materialize.
That makes a lot of sense. But it could also relate directly to human biology and collective consciousness, couldn't it?
It absolutely could.
Like a collective midweek slump, a Wednesday exhaustion that physically lowers our psychic shields.
It is highly probable. We see a direct biological correlation with another pattern Keel identified, commonly known as the witching hour.
Oh, right, 3-point AM.
Yes. He noted that the most extreme, intimate, and physically invasive encounters consistently happen between 3:04 a.m. and 4:00 a.m. local time.
Which is when everyone is fast asleep.
This is not a coincidence. This window correlates perfectly with the peak of REM sleep across a localized population.
Okay, so when everyone is dreaming.
Exactly. When the vast majority of human brain waves in a given time zone shift from waking beta waves into deep, dreaming delta and theta states, the collective psychic resistance of the perceptual membrane drops significantly.
The quarantine things out.
The MIB are essentially surf riding on our collective brainwaves, stepping through the membrane when our guard is at its absolute lowest.
Wow. That completely shatters the idea that these are human bureaucrats with day jobs at the Pentagon.
They definitely aren't clocking in from 9 to 5.
They are energy constructs bound by hidden environmental physics, Earth's magnetic fields, and the sleep cycles of the human population.
It's an entire ecosystem of the bizarre.
So, what does this all mean? Let's bring this all together for everyone listening.
It's a lot to process, for sure.
It is, but if we accept the Keelian paradigm, if we look at the raw data and the absurdity, The men in black are not government agents enforcing non-disclosure agreements.
They are not alien diplomats from Alpha Centauri either.
No, they are the chronosphere's glitchy, physically suffering emergency repair units. They are forcefully spat out of a hidden dimension to patch leaks in our reality whenever we accidentally see too much of the superspectrum.
And they use whatever tools they have to do it.
Right. They use pristine, unwalked shoes, completely ridiculous misunderstandings of colloidal suspensions like Jell-O, and terrifying, impossible telephonic harassment to scramble our data.
Their weapon is confusion.
They induce ontological shock to keep us blind to the true, terrifying nature of the energy that surrounds us.
It really demands a total restructuring of how we view our place in the universe. We are not at the top of the food chain, and our reality is merely a single frequency on a much larger dial.
It really puts things into perspective. But before we wrap up, where does this leave us today?
Well, I want to leave you with a final thought to mull over, building precisely on that idea of tulpas and the superspectrum acting as a mirror for our society.
Okay, lay it on us.
In the 1950s and 1960s, the superspectrum absorbed the localized, very specific paranoias of Cold War society, the intense fear of foreign spies, government wiretaps, and hidden authority, and it reflected that energy back through the telecom grid as the Men in Black.
The system gave us exactly what we were terrified of.
But think about the world today. Think about the endless, chaotic, algorithmically driven energy of the modern internet.
Oh man, the internet is pure paranoia.
Exactly. Think about our modern obsessions with artificial intelligence, deep fakes, algorithmic surveillance, and the complete loss of objective truth.
I don't like where this is going.
If this system is still active, and the data strongly suggests it is, what is the superspectrum absorbing right now from our current massive digital anxieties?
It's absorbing petabytes of terror every second.
Yes. What entirely new, terrifying mimetic construct is condensing into physical matter in the shadows at this very moment, waiting to knock on our doors, dressed not in a 1960s suit, but in the paranoias of the 21st century.
Oh man, that is a chilling thought. From black suits to a walking, breathing deepfake knocking on your front door.
It's only a matter of time.
Thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive into the Keelian paradigm. Keep questioning your reality, keep looking past the obvious answers, and seriously, be very careful who you offer a bowl of Jell-O to.
You might just get an electromagnetic flash in the face.